So
nice.
In the clothes store.
In the clothes store.
Are we live now?
We are live. Sarah has a photo of the island that she's in, or a painting of the island that she's in behind her.
Yeah, just setting the tone, setting the vibes. All right, we rock it?
Yeah. Laura, can you maybe go see if you can tag everyone on, or do I need to do that for my page?
I'm not logged in as you, so I'd have to do it as a comment.
Okay, hold on. Sometimes I'm not that great at technology. Don't tell Michelle. I
think she knows.
She thinks that I'm the technologically advanced one in our relationship.
You are.
Well, you are.
But it's a low base. Is that what we're saying?
Okay, so let's kick it off. I did decide to live stream this one to my main Facebook page. But welcome to the Women on Wealth panel series. This is our third panel, and I am so excited to be joined by some of my best friends in the world tonight on this panel. So I know it's going to be interesting and juicy. We've had two incredible panels to date, and they are available for replay in the Women on Wealth Facebook group. And so we'll drop you some links to join, to register for this panel series and to join that Facebook group. And you definitely want to do that because all of us incredible panelists are giving away some really incredible things to everyone who registers. But the idea behind this is to start having conversations, women entrepreneurs, having the hard, controversial conversations that are going to propel us forward into this new timeline. And for me, you know, my mission on this planet is all about deconstructing financial slavery consciousness and really stepping into a place where women can be empowered to step into financial sovereignty and economic freedom. And I really believe that in order to do that, we have to deconstruct our programming and conditioning and begin talking about the things that have gotten us to this place of being oppressed in the first place. So that's what this series is about. It's definitely intended to be a collaborative effort. This is not a Leah show. And so I actually really like to sit back on these panels and sort of allow everyone else to talk. My idea is that we create this really, really incredible community inside the Women on Wealth Facebook group where, first of all, you can come and get to know more about all of these incredible ladies that are here with me today and their offerings and the things that they're doing in the world, but also where we can come together and collaborate as a community. And the topics so far have been really incredible. We've got some really incredible ones coming up. We've got one more on the 25th of August coming up. So we've had kind of 4 in 2 weeks. And then we'll go to an every other week model. So if there are topics that you'd love to hear us riff on, or there's something that you're really passionate about and you would love to join one of these panels, please reach out to us. But definitely register. We'll drop the link for you and then come into the Facebook group and join us in this incredible community. It's already shaping up to just be like epic women who are here to change the world. So that's why we're here tonight. And in the nature of this really not being about me, I will just say I'm Leah Steele, the Wealth Witch. If you don't already know me, I talked to you just a little bit just now on what my mission is on this planet and why I'm doing this. So that's it. You can find me on all social media at theleahsteele.com. I have a podcast, The Wealth Witch. You can definitely follow. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Taryn Lee, and she can tell you a little bit about herself and where you can find her on social media. Also, just FYI, there's a resources page in the Facebook group that has all the links to where you can find these incredible women on social media. But Taryn, tell them a little bit about you, who you are, and why you're here.
Awesome. Thanks, Leah. And are we going to pass to each participant, or are you going to do that?
You pass it off to whoever you want to pass it off to.
Amazing. Awesome. I am Taryn Lee. I am the Global Ambassador for Healy World, which is this incredible technology. It merges ancient wisdom into future technology that we get to use today. It's here to help raise the collective consciousness of the world. And that really is part, I feel, of my mission here on the planet, is one to really help that side of things, help further develop our wellness and have our wellness evolving, like Michelle also does too, and to really, empower women to be incredibly abundant, wealthy, and all the things that we should be on the planet. So yeah, you can find me at taranlee.co on Instagram, or Taran Lee on all the socials. So that's a little bit about me and my mission. And I will pass over to Tracy, my fellow girl from my same hometown.
Thanks, Taryn. Yes, we missed you in Perth. My name's Tracy Jewell, and I am the founder of UpSelf, which is a self-care space and community, especially for women, to reduce the stigma of me time and prioritizing self-care space without the guilt. And that's really what, I guess, part of what we're going to be discussing tonight. So this is a topic very, very close to my heart. You can find me at Tracy Jewelify on Instagram or upself.com.au, where we have a lot of free self-care resources. And I'm going to pass over to the gorgeous Sarah.
I love this. It's like a game of tag. Can you hear me okay? Is my Wi-Fi? Great. So I'm super excited to be on this call tonight and delve into this juicy topic. My name is Sarah Blacker. I'm also aligned with the incredible Healy World and a leader in that space. And that's really my specialty as well, is working with female leaders. I guide with advanced intuition principles, which really is about helping people get crystal clear on their vision, bigger vision and short-term vision. So they're crystal clear on their direction, their sense of purpose in the world, and then how to create abundance in alignment with that. I've got a podcast launching next week, Sirens of Joy, where I interview incredible badass women who are breaking the rules and are bold in their industry, so that women can really be inspired, but also really follow their own path and not feel like they have to think or be a certain way in order to have the success that they really desire. So that's a bit about me. You can follow me on Sarah Blacker social media links, and yeah, really excited to launch that podcast soon and get it out to you. I'm going to hand it over to, this is like a game, Michelle.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Patrick. I work very closely with Bestie and wonderful Leah Steele, as well as all of the other fabulous women on this panel. I'm a doctor of Chinese medicine and naturopathy. I'm extremely passionate about reconnecting people with their body and their right to the expansion of wellness in all areas of their life through self-mastery, self-ownership, and self-accountability. So this subject is perfect for me. And you can find me on socials, on Instagram at The Earth Oracle, or on Michelle Patrick on Facebook, as I am here. And I'm going to hand over to the wonderful, fabulous Laura.
Thank you. Lucky last. I'm Laura Johnson, and I am one of the world's first ERC practitioners and also wealth alchemy practitioners. So I bring to this kind of panel that wealth side. I am here for all things empowering ourselves, and I'm just really excited about this topic. So that's it. You can find me everywhere. I'm usually somewhere. So
I love it. I love it. And, I'm excited about this one. I've been super excited about this one since we started this panel series, because it really is just an excuse for me to get to actually see my girlfriends face to face, because they're all over the world right now. So Sarah's here and I get to see her occasionally, but other than that, right now I'm separated from everyone. So forgive us if this is a bit of a catch-up chit-chat, but you're gonna get to see a little sneak peek inside what it's like to be in the Leah Steele Girl Gang, I think tonight, the Witches of Wall Street, the just sort of overall posse of all things that happen in Leah land is sort of here in your face on this panel. So super excited about that. I have asked Sarah to facilitate this conversation tonight because I think that she's one of the best interviewers I've ever met. I love having conversations with her because she tends to just really bring out the juicy like tidbits, And she has this really incredible way of making people feel really comfortable and be able to share the things that are in their heart. I'm so excited about her podcast. I cannot wait for her to launch it. So we'll definitely be dropping the links in the Women on Wealth panel series Facebook group so that you can follow Sarah's new podcast, Sirens of Joy. Yeah, so and Tracy and Sarah and I are actually all on the same podcast network. So Tracy and I are super excited to be welcoming Sarah to Bad Boys Media. And I think you're actually going on Extraordinary Media, which is underneath Bad Boys. So welcome to the family. And we're so excited. And we're so excited for your podcast. But I'm going to turn it over to you so you can start to facilitate this awesome conversation.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to be here. It literally does just feel like we get to like hang out from around the world. And I think, you know, have a chat. Like these are the conversations we have all the time, but there's so much like rich wisdom that every woman brings to it. And I think the thing is, like Leah's like, there's an event and we're all like, we're in. Don't even sometimes know what the topic is, but we just have this like Taryn, she's like, what are we talking about again? But the thing is, like, we all come from this like deep desire to be of service, particularly at this time, and like have those conversations and go to those places that, you know, some people don't want to go or don't go. And the cool thing is, like, we don't even necessarily know where this conversation is going to go, but we choose to be of higher service. We step into that space. And yeah, I'm excited, as we all are, to like just share out what's on our hearts around this topic, and you know, trust that it'll be exactly the piece. There'll be one thing, no doubt, that you take that will land, that will, you know, if you allow it to, really, you know, take you to the next level on your evolution. And that's our hope for you, and all of us will all learn something too. So yeah, let's delve in. So this topic is so interesting to me. Like Leah and I had touched on this topic last week in an interview, and I know I've been on a big journey around this, and I personally was reflecting on it, and I think there can be kind of two sides to this story, like the over self-caring and maybe self-sabotaging, but then also the like over, you know, going for it and building that vision and burning out and not self-caring. So I think every woman on this call is going to have a really interesting perspective on this. So I just wanted to kick it off by really asking, I guess, each woman, like, what has been a bit about your self-care journey, and what does that actually mean to you, so that we can just anchor into this topic. So, and then I want to delve into the industry, because that is going to open up a can of worms. So Taz, do you want to kick it off? Because I've known you for many years, and I know this has been a big piece for you.
It has been a big piece for me, because I haven't been, to be honest, typically attracted to the self-care industry, even though it's the space in which I work in. I work inside of wellness. I've been inside of wellness for 20 years, but I think I've always had this, like, I'm a high achiever. I don't need it. I can do everything. It doesn't matter. My body can do anything. I'm freaking superwoman. But, you know, as you know, Sarah, like, there's been so many times that I've pushed, and then like I've hit a wall and like crashed and burnt and, you know, completely like not done the things that have been that sexy or cool. So yeah, I mean, my personal journey inside of that has been realizing how important, from a self-care perspective, is boundaries. So boundaries of my time, boundaries of my energy, where I put my energy, where I honor my energy. And so self-care to me is more around the boundaries I have in my life for my time and my energy and my resources as well. So that's, for me, been my biggest learning inside of this. And to be honest, even as I sit here today, that I'm still learning that. You know, I've had 2 weeks of probably working nearly 18 hours a day, and I'm, to be honest, exhausted right now. And realizing, I woke up this morning going, I haven't been doing the things that I know that don't allow, that stop me from feeling this way. So it is probably perfect. I'm probably going to learn the most out of this today, and it's a great reminder. And as always, the universe is you know, got your back, and as you're in these times, bringing something like this forward. So it's an ever evolving journey, no matter what level you're at, no matter what you're achieving, no matter what you're doing. It's constant course correction, along this path. But for me, self-care, to be honest, is all about the boundaries. And I notice when I leak them is when all of a sudden my energy is depleted.
It's so interesting because Leah, you two can be a bit similar and but different at the same time. So I'll let Leah share her take on this. But Leah often says, I'm the yin to her yang. And so the interesting two sides of the coin is like, you know, your version of self-care and self-sabotage is probably overdoing, whereas my journey was that initially, but then I went the opposite way of like really self-caring and really nourishing to the point where I wasn't like doing much or getting uncomfortable or challenging myself. And so I noticed that like I attracted like two women in my life that were like that, and I was like this, and like I feel like we came in to like also create some balance, which was really interesting. So Leah, like, do you want to follow on that note around your journey with self-care and what you actually think it is? And like I said, then we'll get into the industry because that is what I find fascinating.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, like, yeah, I feel super blessed to have people like Sarah in our lives that can kind of bring us back to like, okay, no, it's actually time to take care of yourselves. And I was thinking today, I'm like, okay, it's late August. And so Taryn and Michelle and I are all metals. And so our season is edging up on us. And we can feel ourselves moving into metal season. And if you haven't watched the incredible Healy webinar that Taryn and Michelle just did on metal and how that correlates to, well, basically everything amazing in our lives, let's be honest. You probably should go watch that. But what I recognized the last week is I'm getting that urge to like want to do all the things. And this time last year, Taryn and I were together doing all the things, all the webinars every night on a webinar, like literally working ourselves to death. And I'm like feeling that urge to do it again. And I am doing it. Like I've literally just scheduled myself night after night after night. So I definitely do. I am on that side of not caring for self and burning myself out. Was really, really blessed to have Michelle come into my life a few years ago, and, you know, awesome to have her as a bestie because she definitely will check me and be like, yo, bitch, take care of your kidneys. Like, what's happening with your kidneys? What are you doing? Are you doing the things? So I am really lucky to be surrounded by a lot of women that really support me in my processes and know how I am and how I can get. And so, yeah, I think definitely my personal experience is that I err on the side of not enough self-care. But obviously, you know, I'm an emotional clearing practitioner, co-founder with Michelle, the emotional resonance clearing modality. And I see a lot of people get really lost in their processes and really take it too far. And move into the place where it becomes all about self-care and it becomes all about self-love. And then they're so caught up in that they're not actually going out and actualizing the things that they're setting into motion, and they're not, they're using it almost as an excuse to not do the things. Definitely, I would say that, you know, of all the people on this panel, I mean, we do have a good balance here. I think like Tracy really focuses on self-care, Sarah focuses on self-care, but I would actually say, you know, I know Taryn and Michelle and I are all like, do the things, do the things, do the things. And Laura is very, very similar. I get to spend a lot of time with her. So maybe we're a little out of balance on this panel actually, but that's sort of my take on it. And, you know, where I fall in the spectrum. But I was really excited to have this conversation because, you know, I think that many women are all or nothing. And it's either one side of the coin or the other. And we don't know how to find the balance very well. And even me, myself, as much as I know and as much knowledge as I have and as much, you know, deconstruction of all the programming and conditioning I do, I still have to work hard on balance. And so I think that ultimately that's probably what this conversation is about tonight. But I do think it's important to talk about the industry, which I know we're going to get into, and how we kind of sabotage ourselves with buying into that we should continually be in a process. So that was a long answer to your question, but that's what I have to say.
No, that was perfect. And I feel like as I like continue and ask these other women, like we can start to delve into that, because another thing that I've personally learned and I think is interesting is like commitment as a form of self-love. And that when we set something that we're going to do and we know is calling us, and it's a form of service or putting on events, or, you know, like creative tension comes up. And I think, Leah, we were joking about this, where that's where people go, oh, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel in alignment. And then we're like, no, it's uncomfortable because you're stepping into that next piece. And as you commit, and Leah laughs because she knows it's true. She sees it in the spiritual industry. They do this too, you know? And then it's like, you know, but not seeing things through. And I know I'd done this in the past when I got really in that world, is a form of self-sabotage. And it's not actually self-love, because self-love is rising to that challenge, seeing something through to completion and growing as a person. So Michelle, I feel like handing that one over to you. Like what's your take around self-love, and like how do you feel like that dance is between, you know, rising to that next level and nurturing and self-caring and knowing the difference between the two? I think that's the real interesting thing. What is that line?
And I do just want to say something before Michelle talks, because the reason that I chose this panel for this topic is that I have a real belief that the women that are on this panel are not going to pull punches. And so I want to just encourage everyone to dive into it and say the things, like speak the things and don't pull any punches and say what you really think. Like, let's not be kind and beat around the bush. Like, I really intend these conversations to be controversial. Like, let's say the things. And I just had to say it before Michelle started speaking. Feel free to say it.
Why did you have to say it before
I love how you say it right before Michelle gets on.
I know. Go for it, Michelle.
Michelle is always trying to, like, she has all the things to say, and then she's like trying to be polite, and then she says the things, but then she doesn't say the things, and then she's like, you're always so polite. And I'm like, no, just let it fucking rip.
Full permission, Michelle. Go for it.
We can fucking swear. Okay, so Sarah, what was your question in the self-care? So it's interesting because, the self-care kind of... What did you say, Faye?
I was just going to say, yeah, that fine, like, what's that line for you between like self-caring and what that means to you, and like too much self-sabotage, you know, that line?
Yeah. I mean, self-care's, you know, of the highest integrity to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to function at all, period. And I'm often not very good at it. I'm great at it when I'm around, you know, people that are doing it. Like when I'm in Bali, me and Leah will self-care continuously with every second of our lives. However, when I'm not, like around women, I get caught up in the cycle of just working all the time. And then before you know it, you know, my kidneys are depleted, much like Leah's, and I can't get out of bed for like 2 days. So, you know, there has to be a fine balance, but also I do think it's necessary to show up, you know, in the world. And it's funny, like the industrial kind of revolution of the wellness industry, I find it quite disgusting, actually. I think it, you know, does pull us into a space of expanding into laziness and not really owning our position in the conscious collective right now, which is really calling us to be in a state of expanding into ourselves and not kind of melting into a puddle of do nothing. And that takes us stepping into, you know, as women as well, kind of breaking the boundaries of what femininity looks like and what this whole stepping into begin looks like. You know, I was on a mentoring call earlier this morning just talking about yin and yang theories and how important it is to experience the flow of both of those things, you know, especially as women. And I know a lot of the women here have been in the same position as me, where, you know, our femininity has been called out because of the way we show up in the world. But just because we show up in the world in that way doesn't mean that there is a lack of self-care by doing that, or a lack of stepping into our femininity by doing that. So I really just think it's kind of yeah, it's an interesting dance. It's an interesting dance, isn't it? But I do believe in the yin and yang of flow, and both of those polarities in the way that we show up with our self-care. And self-care does mean doing the fucking things, you know, especially when you work in the spiritual industry or whatever the hell you want to call it these days. But just like showing up, you know, in your passion and in your purpose to make the changes that you want to see in the world, and not just read about them in a book and drink cacao and use your mantra beads, which is fine as well. I mean, you can do that as well, but could you do that and do the things, please?
You forgot about the praying over your womb part.
Why did you have to bring that into the conversation?
You're on a roll.
How can you have this conversation without talking about that?
It's a thing. It is that, you know, it's just I find it a lot about this kind of spiritual revolution offensive, to be honest, you know, and why each to their own. Of course, by any means, step into the expansion of your highest and greatest good, but step into the expansion of your highest and greatest good with the tools that you've been given, to use the tools that you have been given to change the world and to change, you know, the outcomes of our conscious collective, and not just talk about it and pray over wombs.
So happy you got that bit out. I think we all feel more complete now. So I love that. And like, yeah, I do think like there's so many different things out there. It's a huge industry, but it's also like what actually like materializes and helps us and actually gets results that are tangible and physical and we can see and touch them. So yeah, great. So Tracy, we're going to hand it over to you next. I'm going to move around the screen, and Laura, you're going to bring us on home around this. But I mean, you've been in this space now for many, many years. You've seen a lot of different aspects of it, as we all have. What is your take on, well, what self-care means to you? But then this bigger conversation of like, what do you see the industry is, how that's influencing our take on what self-care is?
Well, if anyone saw my Instagram post yesterday, I am definitely in a real mood of calling out some bullshit right now. So you've got me on a good day. Look, I love self-care. For me, I treat it like an important business meeting. Like I schedule it in like I would anything else in my life. Like I have time every day for self-care, and that's it. The problem is it's still triggered to emotions, especially being a new mum. You know, so yes, I take the time for self-care and I love it, but I feel guilty about it, or I feel like I should be doing something else, or my mind can't switch off, right? So there's so much emotion triggered to it. And I think all women, regardless of being a mum or not, feels that. So yes, we do it because we feel like we should do it, but we're still thinking of our to-do list, and we're still thinking, oh, we should be showing up. We should be using that time to do other things, because like being people pleasers and wanting to show up, you know, for our family, friends, that's what's going on. We can't actually 100% be present and enjoy the self-care for what it is. And for me, I think it's about intention. And I know, Sarah, you're all about intention, and we've talked about intention a lot in our conversations. With self-care, if your intention is to avoid something, that's not self-care, right? Where if your intention is to avoid burnout, or because, you know, you've not been aligned and you've been out of balance, like Taryn working really hard, as I know she does, and Leah and Michelle, it's all about that intention. So if you know that you're using self-care and your intention is to avoid something else, then I think that's the trigger to change something.
I love that. That's really powerful, and it's really beautifully going to tie into this idea of spiritual bypass, which I'm sure, again, each and every one of these people, Leah's like, give it to me. I'm ready for that bit. So before we do get into that, like Laura, I'd love to hear your take on where you sit with self-care and what it means to you in that line. And then, yeah, let's talk a bit more about the industry.
I think I can kind of concur with a little bit of what everyone's kind of said. Like my journey with it has really been about, I would negotiate myself away from it. So it was like, oh yeah, I know I have to do it, but I'd negotiate with myself to avoid giving myself self-care. And I just keep working. But then to clients, friends, family, I'd be like, self-care is the answer. What are you doing for yourself? It's like, okay, you've got to up level self-care. And it's like, bitch, what are you doing for yourself? Like, are you taking downtime? And I'm not a metal constitution, but I can resonate with the three metals here. And I would just go because the job's got to get done. And this is that part where we've really got to take a hard look at ourselves to go, okay, it is about boundaries, but the boundaries actually for me coming with myself. I will negotiate my own boundaries to suit everyone else without actually taking care of me. So the self-care, my journey in self-care has really been about boundaries with me, and I will fight up against them. And that's that part where, each and every woman like that's here today, and those that are watching, we've all had our own journey with this. But it's like, are you really doing the steps to self-care, or are you just faking it to yourself that you are? Because how often do we go, yes, I'm doing self-care. I spent 5 minutes this morning enjoying my cup of tea. No, she doesn't really appreciate my boundaries. So I just got a message from Leg, I don't appreciate your boundaries. But yes.
I said sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes.
I didn't read that part. I didn't open it. But yeah, and this is like, how often do we actually say to ourselves, hey, when's the last time we went for a massage? When's the last time you actually switched off? As in switched off, walked away from the phone, didn't run to it the moment that it pinged. When is the last time that you went out in nature and actually just enjoyed the scenery, or you sat in bed and just read a novel? And this is that part for me that's been a huge journey, because it's not feeling guilty about that stuff, not feeling guilty about the saying no, and not feeling guilty about having to say to things, actually, you know what, that's not a life and death situation, that can wait. So that's my take on it.
I love it. And what I'm kind of seeing here is that there's two ends of the spectrum. It's like, when is self-care and self-love self-sabotage by overdoing it? Which, it was interesting, even at dinner tonight, I was having a conversation with this woman who's been up in Ubud. I'm sure she won't mind me sharing. But she was trying to get a business off the ground. And she's like, everyone here is just like healing and processing and self-caring. And I'm not around like people like with fire that are like making stuff happen. I'm like, yeah, that's a real thing, especially in certain environments in these spiritual communities. And then the other side of that also sounds like, when there's a lack of self-care and a lack of self-love, that can also be a form of self-sabotage, because then you burn out, then you might like really affect your health. That might take you out of the game for a bit while you recover. So it sounds like there's like interesting two sides to this. But let's delve in now to, and I'm gonna invite Leah to talk about this because I feel like she's got some juicy things to say. But around like the bigger picture of this self-help, spiritual, personal development industry, and how that can like shape our paradigm, obviously in regards to these topics, but especially in regards to wealth and our perceptions of what we think it is to be spiritual or self-caring or self-loving, but how that actually influences our ability to create wealth, because this is a wealth kind of panel. So kick it off, Leah.
Yeah, I'd love to. And I was actually just thinking we really need to have a separate panel where we talk about spiritualism versus materialism, because it's such a foundational piece of even talking about this subject that we're talking about tonight. So I can't believe that wasn't one of the first ones I came up with, but we'll definitely do one of those panels. There's this incredible woman that I would love to get, who's here in Bali right now, who lived with Osho for like 27 years in his communities, and really fully understands his stance on materialism versus spiritualism. So maybe we can get that panel put together and invite her on. I think that'd be incredible. But yeah, I think that, anyone that's followed me for any amount of time knows that I'm a pretty no nonsense, tell the truth in your face, do the things motivating from, you know, a fairly masculine energy perspective. And we've got our next panel that's happening is about the masculine feminine dynamic and how gender roles are keeping you broke. So you're definitely going to want to come join us on that. I think Michelle's there, Sarah's there, Taryn's there, Rhonda's going to be here. So that's going to be a really epic panel on the 25th. So we'll talk more about that piece of it. But for this topic tonight, I'll just say that, you know, I do approach things from a fairly masculine energy point of view and perspective, in that, you know, I believe that each and every one of us is the most powerful creator in our reality. And that all it takes to manifest the things that we desire into our life is a decision. And then once we make that decision, then, you know, as spiritual people, the job then, the role then, or the, you know, what we do next is to connect to that highest level version of ourselves, God, source, universe, all that is, our divine immortal soul, and wait for the guidance. And then once we get the guidance, we don't hem and haw about it. We just fucking take action. You just go do the things, right? And that's where I think I get a lot of flack from people, is that I action things very, very quickly. And I don't really wait around for everyone to get on the train. It's like, nope, here's what we're doing, and we're going, and now we're going, and we're going, and we're going. And I think the thing that I find in the spiritual community particularly is that people really want to stay in that guidance phase and in that process phase for way too fucking long. And they will use it as an excuse. And exactly what you said, you know, I mean, like, if I never had to hear or use the word alignment again in my whole entire life, I think I would be happy, because I am so tired of hearing people be like, it's just not in alignment for me. It just doesn't feel in alignment for me. No, you just don't want to fucking do the work. Like, or you haven't really gotten clear on what God, source, universe, all that is. Don't get caught up on the name. It's like, you choose what works for you, but on what action your soul desires to take next. And I'm tired. I mean, like, this is the spiritual bypassing of the spiritual community and the self-help era, that, like, it just doesn't feel in alignment for me. So I'm not sure if I should do it. Like, I don't know if I should do that because it doesn't feel in alignment for me. No, you're not sure if you should do that because, one, either you're not clear, you don't have certainty, or you're not willing to take the next right action. So, you know, and I know that, like, my stance on that and my belief on that triggers people, but at the end of the day, I've worked with all different types of people, and I'm a projector. Like, my job is to lead the energy types, and I work with a lot of other projectors as well. And projectors are the worst at this, by the way. Like, and Sarah, you know this is true. Projectors will fully be like, oh, I can't do it. I need to wait for the invitation. Like, it's not in alignment with me right now. No, bitch, go do the things. Like, bring yourself back to center, bring yourself back into alignment, and ask yourself, what is the next right action? Because when we get really caught up in that, you know, I need to take care of myself, I need to make sure that I'm doing all the things that are right for me. Yes, you do, absolutely. But there comes a time when it's time to make a decision and act. And I think that's really what shits me, is there's so many people out there, you know, in the world, that they'll just stay in the comfort of the misalignment or the indecisiveness of, you know, growing the ovaries to go out and just do things.
Growing ovaries.
I was going to say balls, but it didn't seem fitting for the
that's a new one. You can quote that down. Leah Steele, 2021. Take it. Yeah.
Yes, Rachel, I need to speak my truth right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel in alignment for me.
I was so over it. Like, you know, like you get on a call with a client or something, right? Like, I just have to vent here. Or someone has shown up, like on your webinar or whatever, and then, you know, you want to take it to that next step. And I always hear, I really need to speak your truth. If you need to say, I need to speak my truth between speaking, like, is the rest lying? Like, I don't get it. Like, shouldn't you just speak your truth all the time? Like, you don't need to say it, right? I don't get it. We should always be able to speak our truth. We don't need permission, right?
Oh, that's so funny. And yeah, because I think the reality is what happens is we leave this like more corporate 9 to 5, you know, matrix, whatever you want to call it, reality. And then we shift into this more like conscious, spiritual, entrepreneurial like paradigm. And then we think we've left all this conditioning behind. And then without realizing it, we've taken on this whole other set of conditioning that isn't us. And like you said, like what do half these words even mean? Like alignment, speak your truth, like all this language that is another layer of conditioning that we just start using. And I know I have too. And it's like, but what does it even mean? You know? So Taz, I'm going to hand it over to you because you have an incredibly big community now, and it would get labeled a conscious, spiritual, wellness, entrepreneurial community. Like, what are some of the things that you see within that community? Because you've got this beautiful, like big, you know, higher level lens perspective of it all. What are some of the things that you see block your people when it comes to wealth and them really stepping into more of their full self-expression?
Well, the honest answer, can I speak my truth? Laziness. Honestly, laziness. That's what I see, why people don't really do the things that are required to do. I know that sounds horrible, but that's to me when sometimes people say to me like, I'm not in alignment with this, you know, it doesn't feel good for me right now. I'm like, okay, we have several successful, well, there's only 6 of us. So 6 successful women on here right now. Do you think that every moment of their day, they feel like rainbows and butterflies and everything is in alignment? I can tell you right now, because I know them all, that there are times that they get up and they think, fuck this. I just don't want to do it. I just don't feel good. I just am sick to death of this. There are times that we cry in our pillow. There are times that we do stuff and we think, what are we even doing? I can tell you, we don't always feel like we're in alignment. As long as our main vision and direction feels like we're in alignment, that's okay. But we may go over here and that might not feel good. We may go over here and that might not feel good. It doesn't feel good all of the time. And I think that that's the thing that people seem to be missing out on. And when they're building these businesses, you're going to feel good in those moments that you're meant to feel good. You're going to feel good about your purpose, because that's what should be in alignment, is your purpose of why you're here on the planet and all that sort of stuff in a general projection of that view. But every single day, you're not necessarily going to feel good. There are things that I have to do in my business, and honestly, I don't want to do them. But I don't sit there going, I'm not in alignment with this today. I'm just not going to show up because I can't be asked. Like, it's the truth of the matter is, I see a lot of people are not living up to what they could truly be living to because they're lazy, because they're using this as an excuse. And I'm sorry if I'm being blunt, I am a metal, but that is honestly what I feel. I think that self-care is amazing. I think all of these things are amazing. I think to be in alignment actually is amazing, but be in alignment with your higher vision. The way you get there is not always going to feel like a smooth road walking through the meadows with rainbows and butterflies and unicorns. It's not. Sometimes it's going to feel messy and dirty and hard and tired. Sometimes you're going to feel like that. And that's the reality of when you build something great in the world. It doesn't always feel good.
Boom. Mic drop. Everyone there's going, oh, I thought it was light, love, and bliss the whole way. Shit, Taz is shattering my dreams and illusions. Michelle.
It is love and bliss, but not all the way.
No, I know. No, I love it. I love this real, raw conversation. And Michelle, I feel like you could continue on this riff on this thread.
Yeah, I think Taryn just did an amazing job of speaking into that. It does not always look like sage and roses. You know, it really does not. And I think that is what we're speaking into here, is we're not saying don't go down that path of everything's in alignment, let me just chant my life away. By all means do that. But can we please also accept that there is a divine energetic flow, like I was speaking into before, of these polarities, these energies, which we have to own, and that means owning the parts that aren't pretty as well, especially if you have goals and aspirations. The world, it's cold out here, okay? It's hard, and it's hard for a reason. And the human journey is not meant to be love and light all of the time. We have nighttime for a reason. We have to experience, the darkness in ourselves and push through. And it's actually, let's just speak about that. Like, I find that when I'm in the lowest, kind of most tiredest part is when I create the most, actually. It's funny because I really believe that the human experience is about that. It's really about digging deep, and unveiling what we are. And we have to dig deep to do that. We can't just be in one polarity all the time. And it's hard. It is hard, and it has to be hard, and it gets to be hard. And I quite enjoy that it is hard, I do. It kind of makes me experience and appreciate the other parts of life. It makes me feel like I'm contributing to something bigger, than myself. So yeah, I mean, it has to be the opposite. And then on the other side of that is when we experience all the greatness and the amazing things that we have plowed the field to do, when we're cultivating anything in our lives. It's like, in one of mine and Leah's programs where we speak, into the elements, Becoming Immortal, or ERC, that Laura's a practitioner of, and just speaking into kind of the earth element, and its ability to give us, to allow us to cultivate our true path. If you've got a farm or a field, you're not just going to sit back and let the weeds grow. You're going to pull up the weeds, you're going to fertilize the soil, you're going
and
to
nobody
water it.
wants to pick weeds. Let's be
Nobody
honest.
wants to pick the damn weeds. That's what I'm saying.
But you have to fucking pick weeds.
You have to pick the weeds if you want the fruit or whatever the hell it is that you're growing in your fucking allotment to grow, and you have to pick the weeds.
The fruit's actually not growing down by the weeds. It's like,
but it's something that has to be done continuously as well. It's like when we cultivate anything in our lives, we have to continue cultivating, and then we get the rewards afterwards, and we get to eat the things or enjoy the meal. And that's what life is. It's a continuous ebb and flow of those two polarities. So amen to that, Taryn.
I love it. And you really like talking about contrast. It's like you can't just have like all the love and the amazingness and the joy and the fulfillment if you're not experiencing and rubbing up against some challenges in life too. And I think I remember a quote that's always stuck with me: if you're not going after inspiring challenges, you'll attract uninspiring ones, because we're always here to evolve. And that's where I see what you're speaking about, Leah, of like people getting stuck in the process and attracting the drama and shit in their life. Because if you're not choosing to go for something bigger that expands you and evolves you, that is exciting and contributes, that is it's gonna bring up your shit on the way. But if you don't choose to do that, I feel like life gives it to you anyway. So it's like, which pathway do you want to choose? And I do see that if people don't go for something that stretches them, then that's when this process and this happened to me and that happened to me, they get stuck in that spin because they're not, life is like, come on, let's go. So yeah, I find that interesting. But Trace, yeah, what about you in this this space, and on what do you see? Again, you have a huge network. Like, what do you see are some of these conditioned paradigms that stop people, especially in regards to the wealth piece?
What I love that we're talking about here, that Taryn touched on, and especially Michelle, and I just love the way she puts it, is this contrast, right? This light and dark. And I think it's the same with this surrender myth, that, oh, we'll just surrender it all, to source, universe, God, goddess, whatever you want to call it. We'll just surrender it and go with the flow. Yes, 100%. Sometimes we can't hold on to and control everything. 100% we have to surrender it. But in the contrast, we also have to take responsibility, right? We have to take ownership. We can't just, oh, we'll just surrender and let it go, because that's not what the human experience is all about. We 100% have to take the action to then be rewarded, and then to surrender it up, to let it do whatever. But it can't do that unless we take some damn action, right? It just doesn't work like that. There has to be that contrast and that balance between the surrendering and doing the things. And I think touching on what Taryn said about this laziness, it's also just not wanting to take that responsibility. It's so much easier just to, oh, it wasn't meant to be if the universe didn't make it happen. I just don't believe that, right? It's because you didn't, as Leah said, do some things. You have to do the work to make something happen, right? And sometimes it's hard to take some ownership of something didn't happen. You can't just blame the universe why something didn't happen. You have to make it happen too. I've gone through times, you know, that have been really, really hard, where it's just been easier to not take responsibility and to let that control go. But we know the truth, right? We know when it's because we didn't take some self-responsibility. So yeah, like everyone's saying here, and I'm just loving this conversation. I think there's essences of ickiness in this, that sometimes we just don't want to accept that laziness or those parts of ourselves.
I love it. I'm loving this conversation. Thanks, Trace. That was really, really like well put. This whole thread is really like landing, I'm sure, for myself, for many others out there. Laura, what is your take on, again, you work with Leah closely in her community, and I'm sure you deal with a lot of people with different perceptions on things. So what do you see is some of those paradigms that people take on that prevent them from creating the wealth and expansion that they actually would love?
Look, ultimately, not taking personal responsibility. Pure and simple. It's literally waiting for that silver platter to rock up on your doorstep and actually do it for you. It's like, you know, if I just do the work, if I just do the self-care, everything's just going to work out, but not actually taking any action. And, you know, it's like, I remember in one of the very first courses I did of Leah's, it was like, you know, decision, action. You know, you decide and then you take action. And the whole part about bringing it into reality is actually taking the action. And that's that thing where a lot of us don't want to take responsibility for what we're not doing. We actually want to actually put it back to the universe and go, I'm not in alignment, it doesn't feel right. Or maybe I might do that tomorrow. You know, things aren't working out. Or maybe this resistance is because I'm not in alignment. Now, the reality is that sometimes that is true. You know, sometimes that is true. Sometimes the resistance
That's the bypassing bit. Like she just landed it right there. That is the bypassing.
You know, sometimes the reality is that you're not in alignment. But why aren't you? Why aren't you in alignment? Were you once, and now you've worked out it's too hard? You're actually tapping into shadow parts of yourself that maybe you actually haven't dug deep enough and you haven't got your hands dirty enough. You know, and that's the part for me, which is I'm loving this is coming to here, right? So it's just like, are you willing to get knee deep in the dirt and get your hands fucking dirty to get through your shit? Ultimately, that's what it comes back down to. That part there for me is a personal responsibility. It's just like, okay, how willing am I to sit in my own bullshit before I dig myself out?
I love it. We're right in it. Leah, do you want to just expand on that? Because I know you were like, oh, we're in it. Yes. Do you want to just keep going?
Well, I mean, I think that's the frustrating part, is like, that's the spiritual bypassing, right? It's like we are given excuses, or we're given permission. It's not even excuses. We're given permission to quit. When all of a sudden we decide that something doesn't feel in alignment. It's like, oh, it's getting hard. I'm facing resistance. And then we say that thing that she just said. Oh, maybe the resistance is happening because it's not in alignment and I'm not supposed to do it. And it's like, no, the biggest blessings you've ever been given in your life, every single person that's watching this right now, the biggest blessings you've ever been given in your life are on the other side of you sticking through obstacles, challenges, things that you thought potentially would completely derail you. Like, but we just forget that. And as spiritual people, we want to be always in this state of like, oh, I'm aligning my chakras. And look, there's nothing wrong with aligning your chakras. Like, I do chakra work, I do multi-dimensional work, but I'm so sick of hearing this shit. And I know this is triggering people. I've seen it in the comments. So I know you guys are getting upset about this, but look, That's what this panel's for. It's to have these conversations. And ultimately, I felt like there was a little bit too much boob coming out right there, so I had to put my hair back over it. But ultimately, this is it, right? Like, and Sarah, like, we should actually talk about this, because it's that deconstructing one set of programming and conditioning to take on another. So it's moving out of that, you know, programming and conditioning as women, that we have to do it all. We have to be independent. We have to make our own money. We have to work, push, because we've got to do everything for ourselves and no man can do it for us, to then having our spiritual reawakening and stepping into this spiritual place. And now all of a sudden it's, we shouldn't push anything. Everything should feel in alignment. Everything should be in ease and flow. Bullshit. That's not how life works. And the rewards that you get from actually being consistent and showing up and facing the hard times and facing the challenges and facing the resistance. Now, that doesn't mean that when you face resistance, you don't bring yourself back into alignment, because I do believe that resistance shows up when we're not in alignment, but it doesn't mean we give up and decide to go do something else, or we're just like, oh, it's not working, like it's not in alignment, I'm feeling resistance, like shit's getting hard, I'm gonna go do some Kundalini yoga. Like, no, do the Kundalini yoga and then come back and be like, all right, look, what is the blessing that's on the other side of this obstacle or this challenge that I'm facing? And how do I get there? And stop ramming your head into the wall. Open yourself up to the possibilities that there might be something different that you haven't seen before. And keep questioning everything and keep bringing yourself back into alignment, but don't give up. And that's the spiritual bypassing piece for me that I really struggle with, because I see so many people in my community, and it's being scared, and it's the fear, and it's like things get hard and then we back away and we use those excuses of it's not in alignment or it's resistance, and so I shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. And often like there's that like famous saying of like 3 feet of gold, right? Like it tends to be, especially the closer it is to our heart and the more like we love it and we've been putting our energy into it, tends to be like, I've seen this in myself and so many even of you on this call. It's like right before the breakthrough, shit hits the fan. It feels like everything's falling apart. The tension is high. And it's like, if we stay with that tension, then on the other side of that is a whole new breakthrough, whole new reality, And that's the point where people are like, oh, and you know, like you're so close. I'm going to hand it over to Michelle now, because there's been a Facebook question for Michelle. I'm going to read it out and then you may want to interpret it how you will, Michelle. For Michelle, are we not aligned if we are not, in simple terms, not putting the perfect formula of food simply to a chemical alignment for the foundations of spirit and self? From Alana.
I'm not entirely sure what that means. So if she could simplify it, that would be awesome. But so does anybody else really know what that means?
I'm guessing really she's saying like, if we're not really like nourishing, because you talk a lot about the body as the like foundations, and when we're aligned with the elements and our body's in balance, that's when our like true spirit and true nature can kind of flow through us. So I think she's asking like, if our diet is a bit out of whack, are we more likely to actually be out of alignment because we're not really?
Oh yeah. Okay. So totally, because I mean,
up for correction.
Yeah, that fuel, you know, comes in many forms. Obviously, food is the first most important fuel that we introduce into our bodies. However, you know, I was saying to Taryn yesterday, you know, the human body is capable of perceiving the whole universe. We are the whole universe. But often we are not capable of perceiving our own bodies, because, you know, going down the bypassing area as well, like when it comes to food and stuff like that, especially in the wellness industry, we are following things that other people are doing rather than taking responsibility and accountability for exploring and perceiving our own internal environment, and therefore expanding into our own expression of consciousness as it was meant for us. you know, which is different for everybody. So I truly believe that to be in the highest level of integrity with your spiritual or conscious connection that you were given to express here on this planet, you have to take responsibility for exploring the vessel that you were given to do it, which is the body. And your body is different to everybody else's. You know, one thing I always say, which I never get tired of fucking saying, is that we all have different fingerprints for a reason. We can't all, you know, eat the same things. We can't all drink the same things, and neither are we meant to. And I think it's bullshit to kind of bypass your wellness by doing Google nutrition instead of exploring your own unique internal ecology, because I think you're doing consciousness a disservice by doing that. And I know it's a hard pill to swallow, but it's the pill that you've asked me to talk about. So yeah. Yeah.
No, you go, Michelle.
No, carry on, babe.
Are you finished? No, I was just going to say, like, again, that's probably something that's like always evolving, your relationship with food and your body, and as you up level. But again, you don't want like your obsession with food and what you put in your body to like still stop you doing things. I think I've definitely been there before as well, where I'm like, oh, I've got to get my nutrition perfect and high vibed before I can take any action. So it's probably an evolving relationship.
Yeah, totally. And what's high vibe for some people is not high vibe for others. You know, I personally can't survive on juice, and I don't know how anybody can do that if they have my kind of spleen, you know.
Can
And
we just talk about the high vibe thing for a second, though?
Yeah,
because we've got a bunch of women on this webinar, and like, can we just talk about how high vibrational frequency is not better than low vibrational frequency? So we're like, oh, this is it again, spiritual bypassing. Like, everything needs to be high vibe. No. Low vibrational frequencies are necessary in life, and in some cases, really, really beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of lack of understanding, actually, when you say something like, let's be high frequency, especially that terminology. Completely wrong. Like, there are so many dimensions and so many levels of frequency, and it's what resonates, whether it's correct or not.
Yeah. I did a video on this the other day because I was having a day where I think I was just like feeling like I'm not seeing my family for a while, and just feeling the shit going on in the world. And I was like trying to figure out what it was. And I was like, I'm just feeling emotions. And I like just moved through my body, and I actually did a video on it, like the myth of high vibration. And that sometimes, like, if we've got, I know you speak about this, Leah, like if we're feeling anger or like sadness and we actually like feel that, that can actually be channeled into, like, alchemized into service, into fucking swearing, getting excited, but like into taking action, into being like, I'm not a stand for this, like I'm gonna make that thing happen. So yeah, I agree that the full spectrum of emotions is needed, and it's not high vibed. And I know even in Healy we talk about high vibration mean more like finding your like a coherent nervous system or something, more so than a like static dance party or like completely flat. And actually this could be a really good conversation to go into, because I know a lot of your work, Leah, and everyone's work on here actually, Leah, Michelle, Laura, now that you're what is it, what do we call you as a practitioner? Sorry,
ERC practitioner.
ERC practitioner.
Yeah.
Let's talk about wealth and emotions, because this is a huge piece. And also, again, this lovely lady that I met at dinner, but I think it's like a really practical like example that many people relate with, that we can actually workshop to give people something really practical. So it's like just using this as an example, it's like, so I'm feeling stressed and anxious about my business, for example, but then if I set a goal, I feel stressed and anxious about the goal. So I have to kind of self-care, because I don't want to, this goal is making me stressed and anxious. And so people, I think, can get trapped in this stress or anxiety around, maybe particularly around wealth. So then it's stored in the body and it becomes hard for them to move, but then they're self-caring, which is sabotaging them from actually shifting the position that's going to change their emotional state. So I think that's a very real example for people, especially when it comes to like money and you know, there's a lot of survival stuff in there, especially at this time. Like, I'm going to open that up popcorn style if anyone wants to jump in. Like, how do people shift their emotions around money, and especially a situation like that? What would your advice be?
I think the first thing that we have to say if we're talking about emotions in relation to wealth is something that Michelle and I talk about a lot. It's not very popular, which is emotions are pathology. So, you know, we act as if our emotions are these things that run our lives unchecked, that we almost have no control over. But emotions are pathology, and they exist in our physical vehicle, they exist in our body because we have elemental imbalances. And so when we realize that and we bring ourselves into balance, then we have an ability not to be driven by our emotions, but to actually experience our emotions in the present moment, and then make decisions based upon where we're actually at instead of what we've been programmed or conditioned to do. And certainly stuck and stagnant emotion that exists in our organ systems and the meridian systems of our body, that actually dictates the majority of the actions that we take, and really our whole lives. Like, our whole lives are dictated by stuck and stagnant emotional pathology in the organ systems of the body. And that's a big part of the work that Michelle and I do. And obviously that work carries over into my program, Ouroboros, where we really do look at deconstructing financial slavery consciousness and emotions that keep us stuck and stagnant as it relates to emotions. So I think that that's the first thing that we have to actually acknowledge, that we don't have to be at the mercy of our emotions, that our emotions are pathology that exists because of elemental imbalances that we have in our body. And that's something I think that's quite hard for people to grasp. And so if that's something that's new and that's foreign to you and you're watching this, like, you know, certainly, like, Michelle and I have lots of free resources that you can come take advantage of to kind of learn more about that. But, you know, as it pertains to wealth, from a purely scientific point of view, we carry generations of ancestral DNA memory. And so I think that people, when they think about that, they go, oh yeah, I carry the memories of my ancestors. And they don't realize that those memories include traumas. They include programming and conditioning that's negative around money, wealth, and currency. And so the majority of people walk around on this planet being held back by things that actually aren't theirs, that are their grandparents or their great-grandparents or their great-great-great-grandparents, that are causing them to react in ways that are not true to the experience that they're actually having on this planet. And so for me, it's why I'm so passionate about emotional conditioning and clearing work, and really diving deeply into our ancestral lineages and our genealogy, and clearing that up and looking at, you know, this experience that we're having in this lifetime, not just in this 3D existence that we're having, but across multiple timelines and paradigms and dimensions. So that was probably a lot, but.
No, I love it, because the thing is, yes, it may be confronting, but it's also super freeing when you start to acknowledge, like, oh, maybe emotions have been holding me back from where I want to go financially my whole life. Like, it's also freeing to know, oh, I can change that. I can allow the emotions that I want to create of where I'm going in my future be stronger than those emotions from the past that hold me back. And I think that that's actually empowering when you really, like, acknowledge that. So I think go for it. And I know it's a huge part of your work, and I've experienced it, and it was amazing. And I think all the women pretty much in this call have. So I'm actually going to hand it over to Taz, because you have had huge shifts in your wealth consciousness. And I know, like, you also work a lot with the Healy, which has, and you've said this to me before, you really feel like that cleared a lot of energetics and emotions for you that allowed you to step into that new level of wealth. Do you want to speak into that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I always find that when I'm talking to people around wealth and money, is that underlying all of that seems to be this common thread of not deserving it. And so therefore not feeling like you can call that in, that you don't need to do the work, whatever it is, that ultimately it's this like, I don't deserve it. And so therefore I can't really have it. And it could be for all these kinds of reasons that you don't deserve it. You think you're a bad person, you've got this, you've got that, you've got trauma, you've got whatever it might be. For me personally, I have certainly found that, you know, lots of different things have certainly helped. But ultimately, the main thing that has helped is just making the decision, I deserve it. And that, you know, and that you're not a bad person for wanting it. In fact, one of our mutual spiritual gurus that we often see, he actually said to me, one of the most spiritual things you can do in the world is actually become ridiculously wealthy, because it means you're truly tapped in. You've worked on your stuff, you've worked on your shit, you've decided you deserve it, and you've aligned with the universe, and you've said, turn it on now. And so I think that's one of the things that people don't get. Like, you get to decide actually that you deserve it. Why don't you deserve it? Like, honestly, think about it. Why don't you deserve it? And if there is stuff holding you back, do the stuff that's going to help clear it. Do the work that's going to help clear it. And then just get on with it and make the money. Like, it's not freaking rocket science.
I love it. I love the metal energy coming through on this call. And I mean, I think that also taps back into the bigger theme of spiritual bypass, because if you fundamentally like don't believe you deserve it, you deserve the wealth and the success and the whatever it is that you desire, you will like unconsciously like find these tools and processes and things to distract you from going for it, because the deep root thing is I'm not worthy and I don't believe it. I don't believe I can have it and I don't deserve it. And so therefore I've got to work on myself more or process more or do this to be worthy to then go for it. And I think that's a loop. If you break it down, like I feel like that's a loop that all stems from like, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, I need to fix myself and then I can have.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, there's obviously work to be done. We don't come to this, you know, like Leah just said, we don't necessarily come to this planet with like, you know, so feeling like we always deserve it. You know, things happen in our life. We accumulate gunk inside of our fields, inside of our bodies. But seriously, once you've gone and done that stuff, then get on with the job. Like,
or do the shit, do the work on the way to where you're going.
Do the shit that's required, then get on with the job.
Everyone is just like loving it. Who else wants to pop in? Like, Michelle, you seem to be just.
I think 100%.
Oh, cool, Trace.
No, I think 100% what Taryn was saying is like, we are always in a process, right? It's not about waiting for us to be finished with the process to then up level and feel worthy. We are always in a process, you know, and it's really just the meaning we attach to it as well, right? And we can attach a meaning of, okay, well, this financially isn't perfect in our life, so therefore I can't create more income, or whatever meanings we're telling ourselves. That's what comes true. I mean, while bankrupt, I've created the most money in my life while on paper being bankrupt, and Leah knows this. It was the meaning that I attached to that. So for anyone, you know, and I know in spiritual, like there's a big disconnect, this bypass of being spiritual and earning money. That is one of the biggest stigmas, I believe, in the spiritual community, and how much we give away for free with that worthiness. But at the end of the day, it's just the meaning that we attach to it and what we are here to do in the world that makes the difference.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool. I'm just looking at some of these comments. Get over yourself and just shit. So true. Stop processing, capital letters, Leah. And on that, for the love of God, stop undercharging. Okay, Laura, you're going to take us off next. Lean into this a bit more for us.
So I suppose that brings us. Emotions are energy in motion. We're actually supposed to move through them. We're not supposed to keep them. We're not supposed to hold on to them like they're our bodysuit of armor that we get to take on board with every single next thing that we do. You know, it's like I'm a complete proponent for bringing all of my shit, all of my past stuff, all of my worthiness and deserving and thinking, because in my past I had XYZ issue, that therefore I can't actually have these things now. And as we actually drop all that baggage and we literally let it all go, we actually realize that we actually just get to have the emotion, experience the emotion, but it's the meaning that we put to it that makes all the difference. So if it's like, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling whatever it is, allow yourself to move through the emotion, versus being like, oh, I've got to stay in this. I've got to do this process. I've got to do this work. It's like, no, this is how I feel right now. What am I going to do about it? And you move through it. But yeah, the whole, like, for the love of God, stop undercharging. It's like in the spiritual community, it's like, oh, we can only actually charge X amount for our service. It's like, no, you actually charge what you value yourself at. And if you're going to undercharge, this probably goes into a whole other topic, but if you're going to undercharge, how is God source universe going to bring the clients that are aligned to you if you're charging a snippet of what you're actually worth? And this comes back to that worthiness discussion. It's like, are you valuing yourself? And how do you value yourself?
Yeah, that worthiness piece always seems to come up on a lot of these conversations about women and money, and like the ways that we avoid doing the things because deep down that's kind of at the core of it. So it's fascinating that always comes up. Michelle, did you want to speak into anything around this role of emotions and money, like wealth? Because I know you're the co-creator of this incredible modality that really focuses on this.
I mean, I think all the women have really spoken into wealth, but it's funny how we do, allow our emotions to kind of run away with us. And obviously they're there for a reason. Our nervous systems are doing us a service by giving us these smoke signals, because that's what I see them as, smoke signals to things that are out of alignment internally, and therefore definitely out of alignment externally, if they're coming from an internal perspective. So really understanding, the body from that perspective, I think is hugely important to creating wealth, and often we have we compartmentalize all these other areas of our lives without realizing, that I always take things back to the body entirely. So if you are struggling to create things like wealth, no matter what that means to you in your life, and the emotions around wealth are uncomfortable for you, or you have certain, waves of emotion in your ability to create in those areas, then why not just take it back to the body and deal with that, and keep it moving, and then change the foundation for the whole of your situation, instead of just focusing on compartmentalizing on just one or two things. Do you know what I'm saying? I see wealth as something that's like everybody's right, isn't it? It's like, it's really hard for me to think of it any other way. It's everybody's right, and it's something that we're all capable of achieving. And the human being is capable of limitless capacity if you allow it to. But if you're going to get caught up in the stagnated emotions that disallow you to think of yourself as a limitless creator of creation, then that's something that probably needs to be addressed.
And this, you've just reminded me of a question that popped up earlier for all of you women, because what we're really talking about here is like on the way to like creating more and more impact in the world, creating more wealth, creating more, like, just expanding your own consciousness. You have to move through uncomfortable shit. And that's where people kind of like, oh, that gets hard. I'd rather just like chill out on the couch and have a self-love day. So, this is really what we're talking about. So my question for you ladies is like, what drives you to move through the resistance and move through that discomfort in order to come out the other side? Like what, because some people can't be bothered doing that. Like, what is it that drives you to move through that?
Yeah, I'm super happy to jump in on this, because I feel like I am in this place now because of the work that I've done, and because of the deep emotional conditioning work that I've done, that I literally welcome, like, when the times show up that are hard, that are challenging, the obstacles, the resistance, I almost get excited. Like, I'm almost like, yes, bring it. Because I know that on the other side of that is something so incredible, because I've showed up enough times to know that in the deepest, darkest places of my life, the other side of it has always been the biggest blessing. So when we lost everything, $3 million, ended up $1 million in debt, lost our house, lost our car, we're 3 hours away from being homeless. Like, the other side of that was the biggest blessing I've ever had in my entire life. And I made it through it. And I guarantee that every single person that's watching this call, I know every single one of you on this panel, but every single person that's watching this call can think back to a time in their life that they thought they were in the biggest, deepest, darkest despair of their whole entire life, and they were never going to make it out. And then once they made it to the other side, we're able to look back and see the blessing that actually came from that destruction. And so for me, it's like, that's how I show up. That's how I show up. That's how, when things get hard, I continue to do the work. I can continue to, be dedicated and disciplined in my personal practices, continue to connect to God, source, universe, all that is, continue to journal, continue to practice my self-care in a positive, non-detrimental way. like I do that because I know that all it actually requires of me is to keep showing up. Like, all God is asking of me is to keep showing up, moment after moment. And as long as I do that, that's my part. My part's the showing up. It's not my part to know why the things are happening. It's not my part to know, what's on the other side of it or why it's happening. Like, for me, it's always like reflecting back, going like, oh, wow, yeah, like that was really fucked up, but look what happened because of it. Like, look how amazing. I mean, I think Taryn and I have had 5 or 6 scenarios in the last year where we've been like, that was so fucked up. But then on the other side of it, we're like, but look, like, and while we were in it, we were like, this is so fucked up. But then on the other side of it, we're like, look where we are now. So it just is like, that's really, if I could impart any wisdom from this call at all, it would be show up when it's hard. That's your part. That's you showing up and meeting the universe, is you showing up. And I guarantee you that we're given these obstacles and these challenges in our lives for a reason. It's for growth and expansion. And the thing about humanity is we have this instant gratification thing. And it's like, we're not willing to look at the long game. And so when things get hard, we quit. And you touched on it earlier, Sarah. It's like, so many people quit. And it's like, if you just kept showing up, if you just kept doing your part a little bit longer, there's the $1 million right on the other side of that, right? Like, there's the success. There's the thing that you deeply desired. There's the family that you desired. There's the children. There's the lover. There's the, whatever it is. But we quit because when things get hard, we quit. So that's my sermon.
Perfect. That's exactly what needed to be said just there. Taryn, I think you've unmuted. I feel like you are going to extend that conversation.
Well, yeah, I mean, Lee ended up saying it anyway. So what I was going to say is, like, seriously, we are here to grow. Like, when you actually fully get that we're really here to grow, like, you take it all on. You're like, cool, all right, cool. So we're not here to sit on the couch and watch Netflix all day. Like, how boring is that? But we really, but you see that, and it baffles me, because I'm like, don't you want more? Don't you want more out of life? Don't you want to juice more out of life than to sit around watching other people's lives on a TV show? We're ultimately here to grow. And Leah's totally right. Like, in all of the areas where we've ever had the most incredible successes, I know for me, my most incredible success has been after the most painful periods of my life, after the periods of time when I thought, I don't know if I can keep going forward, but I'm going to trust that I can, and allow to whatever's going to happen. And then here you are. And even, like, I think, Tracy, you were talking a little bit about surrender. Surrender is great, but you've got to give it a damn timeline. Like, you can surrender to the universe, and I did, right? I can tell you, I had a relationship breakup. I was financially exploited to the point of zero. I got diagnosed with, we think you've got early onset MS, and I thought, what the hell is going on this planet? Like, something is telling me I'm out of alignment. No, and I was like, I surrender to the universe, but I do it for 6 months. And if you don't have the answer after that, then I'm getting on with the job and I'm going to just do something else. But show up and show me what you've got in the next 6 months. And I surrender, I trust you, but bring it to me in 6 months, because I'm not waiting any longer. And then all of a sudden brought me Healy, and boom, my entire life changed. You know, like my entire world changed because I did that, but I had a time frame on it. I had a timeline on it. So yes, you can surrender stuff to the universe, but you've also got to do your part. And you've also got to give it a timeline. The universe, I can tell you right now, responds to timelines. They do. So you've got to actually say, I'm here for this, but from January 1st, and then I'm doing something else, whatever it is. So
The ultimatum.
I don't know, whatever. Bro, stop watching Netflix.
That's called don't be the universe's bitch, make the universe your bitch.
Yeah.
You give your demands. You give what you're available for, as Leah would say. And I think 2 things that I'm taking from these comments is that the Surrender Timeline program coming out soon, it's going to be one of the most popular on the market. So you can start registering your interest for that program. Going to be a hit. The Surrender Timeline, that is gold. And then also Heather wrote, when I want to quit is when I will double down. Booyah. Like, yes, I feel like the whole panel is like giving you like little air fist pump hallelujahs right now. That's the point. I think, again, we're like getting the points. If you can take this home and like into your life, like we'll be doing more of the hallelujahs. Michelle, did you want to add to that? You look like you were like,
oh God, these women, can I just say, I love you all, God damn it. Like, I really do. I really love these women. I feel extremely blessed to have women like this in my life. I think we all need women like this in our lives. You know, we're not meant to do it alone. And these kind of conversations are big reminders for all of us, you know. And just what Taryn was saying, I mean, there is a timeline, you know, and I think I was saying this to Taryn on our call yesterday, you know, the universe gets to bend at your will. Okay, you are the universe. Stop bypassing on that. Stop it. Like, and in your inability to not know that is spiritual bypassing. Okay, you are the universe. Like, we do all of the work and all of the, you know, the work, the spiritual work to be closer to the universe, but you are the universe, and the universe gets to bend at your damn will. Okay, not the other way around. So I believe that we should do that program. Okay, on timelines, please. Taryn, can we do that?
Next call, Surrender Timeline. Done. Happening.
That's what we're doing.
We're just going to be on here every Friday.
It should be how to make the universe your bitch. Like,
yes.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
That's a book. That's a book.
That is a book. Oh my God.
Next book out, how to make the universe your bitch.
Next co-author book, how to make the universe your bitch.
Yes, do that, please. I'm here for it.
I'm here for it, of course. I'm here for that too. And this is like, I echo what Michelle said. Like, I'm so, I hope I haven't frozen. I'm so grateful to be around these women too, because I know each of us, when we come on these calls, like, it's a reminder to ourselves, like different aspects of this whole theme. But yeah, like, surround yourself with strong, empowered women that are going to call you on your spiritual bypassing ways and, you know, and also call you when like you're actually self-sabotaging by not self-caring and look after yourself, or like you're no good to anybody. And I think that for me, time and time, and I know all of us in our own way have come to realizing that this next evolution is about that, like being in communities and being around people that, you know, we're constantly reminded of these pieces. So we're like, boom, let's go, next level, let's play. So yeah, thanks for that reminder as well, Michelle.
So,
Trace,
Sarah, I have a question for everyone that I want to ask.
yes, go.
So I want to know from everyone, what is the thing that you would say to me that you wouldn't necessarily say to your community about this topic that we're talking about? Because I feel like it's really important to say the things and to share how we're really feeling. So I know that each and every one of you would say whatever you were feeling to me. So what's the thing that you would say to me that you would actually be a little bit hesitant to say, because one, you would feel like it wouldn't land necessarily very well with your community, or you feel like you would get some flack, or you feel like you would come under attack, or you feel like you'd get shadow banned, or you feel like Mark Zuckerberg would censor you, or like, what is the thing that like you really would love to say to women about this topic, spiritual bypassing, showing up, doing the work, that you might be afraid to say otherwise? I mean, I think like now's the time, like it's the time to say the thing. So I'm just going to open the floor. I won't call on anyone, but
I love it, Leah. You know, it's all my mood right now. And like, I shared a post last night on my Insta, something that's playing on my mind, because I'm in the self-care space. Like, that's my podcast, that's my business. I write books on the subject. And there's this whole stigma around, well, if I'm writing about it and I'm showing up every day on my Insta talking about self-care, surely like self-care is all about balance in all areas of life. Like, you know, self-care is having physical self-care and financial self-care and social self-care. That is just such bullshit. Like, for one, I have no social self-care. Like, I'm a total introvert and a total recluse. Yes, I mean, like with my social circles and my friendships. Like, and I'm cool with it. Like, I'm not trying to pretend that, oh, it's so balanced and I catch up with a girlfriend once a week for that part of my social self-care. I don't, and I don't want to. And that's my self-care, right? And so I'm so glad we're finally having this conversation, because I get asked all the time, oh, for you to really look after yourself, you have to spend X amount of time in this whole wheel of life. No, you don't, right? But we do know the areas that we do need to look at as well. And that's different. That's a different conversation and a different bypass. But for now, I don't need to look at social self-care. I'm happy in my little family bubble, right? That's my social self-care. But it's not lying to yourself on the parts that you do need to work on either.
Love it.
So that's my little rant.
I might jump in on my little rant, which is I think Taz has given me the solution to my little rant already. But mine has been like, I've had some like really like challenging things in business wise recently, where I'm like, I really like, one of my gifts is clarity for other people. Like, I can go in intuitively, boop, boop, boop. But for myself, there's been like the last couple, like I'm coming out of it now, but the last couple of weeks, and I kind of was a little bit in that like surrender, like show me the highest path here, because there's timeline and options right now of like and but the piece, and it's kind of revealing, but the piece that I personally have not done is by this fucking day, or this is what's happening. Like, I haven't been that assertive with the universe to be like, it's this, or I'm like checking out of my job, like my spiritual, like I know my mission, but if you don't show up and like give me some really fucking clear like next steps, I'm just going to go on vacation. So yeah, I think that has just landed on me for this call of like being really assertive, setting a date and being like, that's what I'm available for. And if you can't meet that, then, you know, I don't know what happens after that bit, but anyway, that's my.
We probably all know Marcus Schmicke, who we probably all know him, right? Somewhere along the line, if you don't get to know him. He told me a story actually when I met him, that he had said to the universe, and he's one of the most conscious people you can probably know, head of the Consciousness Society and blah, 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 all that stuff. He had said that I told the universe that by the 21st of May, I am to meet the love of my life and the wife and the mother of my children, and gave the universe a timeline. And then on the 20th of May at midnight, he turned around at a bonfire and saw the love of his life and the wife that who now is, and the mother of his children. So, you know, this is real. Like, this is actually, we get to actually set the timeline, because the person you're talking to is yourself. You are the universe. It's just your future self that you get to play with and you're co-creating together. And so your molecular self, where we are here, gets to play with the energetic self, which is in whatever dimension it happens to be at the time. You get to actually say, this is my timeline, guys. Taryn, Leah, whoever you are, this is my timeline, and we are showing up and making this decision and making it happen by then. So I'm glad that's landed for you, Sarah.
Yeah. Got it. Got the piece. Who else? I feel like this is confession session or something.
It is confession. I think the biggest part for me is getting real with myself. Like, literally, where am I fucking throwing myself into processes, or throwing myself into work, throwing myself into Leah's company? Like, where am I, like, literally not getting real with myself and my own bullshit? So, and that's the part that's been the biggest landing piece over the last couple of months for me. And it's just like, you know, it's like, and letting go of that outcome. It's like not having to try and control and manipulate the universe into giving me the outcome that I desire. Like, literally, when we talked about like money before, it's like almost like, for me, it's now got to a point where it's like, yeah, you put your intention out there, but you let go of the outcome. And it's like, you know, this is what I intend, this is what I'm calling in, this is what I desire, this is what I want, but completely letting go of the outcome. And that comes back to this work as well. It's like, okay, cool, you know, getting real. And it's like, okay, what am I truly wanting to call in? Like, what is that? And then putting that out to the universe. And then my role then is literally, my alignment is to do the fucking work. It's not to get stuck in a process. It's not to go, oh my God, but I don't feel like I'm aligned. I don't feel like I'm, you know, it's like, you can't circumnavigate the inner work. So when that comes up, you literally just do it, but don't get caught in it. You know, you can be doing courses and programs and the work for 10 more years and receive no income for that. How's that going to serve you, and how's that going to serve your community? And I don't believe that I don't say that, because I think I talk to Leah about that all the time.
Is it my turn? I say terrible things about humanity to Leah all the time. So if we're having a confession, I do. You know, I do. I find humanity extremely challenging, just because, you know, we're all kind of trapped in this, just going on the same vein of what we've been speaking. You know, we're continuously seeking, and seeking does have a purpose, but it does not have a purpose if it doesn't have an outcome. So there's just a continual kind of journey that people are on without expecting an outcome to that journey, you know. And I just really implore people to expect outcomes for yourself, you know, and get the outcomes that you want for yourself by realizing your limitless capacity. And that sounds cheesy as fuck, I know, but it is real. And if you don't realize your limitless capacity, you won't ever experience limitless capacity. So be the change. Stop being all of the buzzwords, because it's boring and it doesn't work.
It's boring. Common theme for the night. Stop being boring.
It's colonialized spiritualism.
It is. God damn it. Stop it right now. Okay? Stop it.
I can't handle it. Anyone else want to? I'm losing it.
Is this confession? Is this what we're doing?
This is confession. This is where you confess.
Apparently we've moved into the confession part of the evening.
Alchemizes into energy.
Right.
Is that part of bypassing?
Yeah, so you're high vibed.
I mean, you know, I obviously have a huge community of conscious people, and I think consciousness doesn't look like how it's marketed. And I think that consciousness, some of the most conscious people that I see that are truly co-creating with the universe, they're not all hippies sitting in a tree with their beads and their, I don't know, hairy armpits or whatever it is that's going on. It could be for some people, but actually it doesn't mean that it is for everyone. That's not what consciousness looks like. Consciousness looks like your ability to actually co-create with the universe and humanity and do some cool stuff on this planet, create more enlightenment. That doesn't mean that you have to be, you know, I love Bali. I love it. We go to Ubud all the time. We go to Ubud and we go have brunches and have champagne. That's what we do when we're up in Ubud. True story. All of these ladies on here, that's what they do. So we like shopping. I like nice things. I like luxury. I fly business class. I stay in 5-star hotels everywhere that I go. I'm conscious. I want to create some epic shit on this planet. I want the consciousness to raise on this planet more than anything on the planet. But I want to do it in style. I don't want to have to like walk around in flip-flops all day and feeling like a poor scummy scumbag. Like that's just not my vibe. And I think that it's okay. And it's also okay if you want to do it that way too. It's also truly okay. If you want to be in a cave or if you want to just be on the beach, you can do it any way that you like. But you don't have to be like, I'm a vegan that only drinks like green tea and green juice and stuff. We don't. I don't. I've got wine right here. Like we totally, that's not what a consciousness community looks like. And I think that sometimes it's marketed as a complete load of shit. So that's my confession.
Tell us what you really think, Tess.
That was the best confession
Can I say something on that?
Dying. Oh my God, Taryn. I cannot. That was the best. Okay. There is nothing else I could say. That was all of the whole truth. The whole fucking truth. Okay.
I'm gonna wrap it up there.
Thank you.
It's marketed to be unattainable. Like it's marketed to be completely unattainable. And it's like if you're not ticking all these boxes, then therefore you're not conscious, or you're not spiritual, or you're not whatever the fucking label you want to put on it.
I have one more thing to say.
Good, because I don't know where to take it from here.
For real. If you ask any member of my staff, they will tell you that we are a patchouli-free zone. Patchouli was used to cover the smell of dead bodies. That's what it's for. So you don't need to wear it or use it in any way, shape, or form to be a conscious human being. That's the only confession that I have. I've shared all my truth with you tonight. I've spoken all my truth, but I just have to share with you that you don't need to wear patchouli.
Unless you're covering a dead body. Or if you smell like a dead body.
Yes.
You couldn't use patchouli.
No, just shower.
But just not in patchouli.
Oh,
Okay. I think I'm like off duty as the facilitator. I'm losing it over here. But I don't even know where you take it from here. This has been like the most epic conversation. Are there any more questions just to like bring us home, ground us in? Because I think you're really starting to feel, you know, the guts of where this is going and coming from.
Yeah, I would love if we have any questions for anyone to post questions either in Facebook or in the chat for any of us, anyone that you want to ask a question to. And then I just want to say, like, it makes me so happy, like, to have this panel, have these incredible women here who obviously are some of my closest friends. But like, I'm looking at this panel and I'm like, yep, every single one of them, an Ouroboros alumni, like, have done the work, have showed up, are willing, disciplined, dedicated to deconstructing programming and conditioning that's holding them back from their infinite potential. And, you know, I have people ask all the time, like, how do you guys live these lives that you live? How do you do the things that you do? How are you as successful as you are? And really, I think that the simplest answer is that every woman on this panel is willing to show up to the hard work. We're willing to question everything. We're willing to ask ourselves the hard questions. We're willing to go to the places that a lot of women aren't willing to go, even showing up on this panel to talk about these things and have these conversations. But so I just want to, you know, first of all, thank all of you for being here tonight. Thank all of you for, you know, your commitment to making this planet a better place, because I know each and every one of you is such an incredible humanitarian in your own right. And thank you for, you know, paving the way for women to see that being wealthy really truly is our divine birthright. Like it is what we are worthy and deserving of just for being beings on this planet. And so, yeah, I just want to say thanks for that. And how much healing is too much healing? Or is there a same thing? Is there such a thing? That's a good question. Who wants to answer that?
I think too much healing is when you've got to a point of where you're no longer actually growing. You're just staying in your same little manure pot and just percolating around there. I think you've got to jump out of that. You know, once you've done some of that healing work, you've got to jump out of that and put some things into action. You've got to go out and live in the world. You've got to go create some goals, some stuff. You've got to test your healing. Like you've got to go out there, bump into the world a little bit and test the healing that's happened. Do I need to go back and recalibrate and heal a little bit more? Maybe I do. But you're not going to really know that while you're just swimming around, percolating in the same pond over and over again. You got to get out there and you've got to bump into the world. And so I think that too much healing is when you realize that you're still just in that same pond. Not enough, maybe you've never ever entered that, but too much is, you know, so that's my 2 cents on that.
I just want to add to that too. Like, I think our idea of what healing is as well is very narrow and very limited. Like getting into a relationship can be super healing in your next evolution. Getting into a business and the growth and the emotions and the things that come up in that process could be your next evolution in healing. Like starting to love and honor your body and put different foods in and stuff, that would be your next evolution of healing. So it doesn't have to just be like working with a therapist and like peeling back the layers of your childhood. Like I think there's so many ways we can heal, and it's like, what is my soul calling me to next? And that inspiration, and you know, where's the energy calling you? And there's healing in everything for us. So like moving towards something rather than just, you know, I just think it can get very narrow in like what actual healing needs to look like too. Oh, this.
And also, like if on that, like if you're always in a process and you're not actually doing, like Tracy just put in the comments, like if you're not actually doing anything, but you're always in a process of, you know, fixing something, healing something, you know, the next whatever it is, it's like, well, take a step back, observe what you're doing, look at it from a higher power, and then it's like, am I doing too much healing? You know, there's always going to be another layer. There's always another layer to the onion, but you actually have to put yourself out before you can actually go, okay, yeah, I've done what I need to do.
For me, obviously it's what I do, so I see it all the time, you know, but it's quite interesting because I think people lose sight of what they're actually healing. And then you get to a state of always feeling broken, which is disgusting. You know, that's another thing. It's like, you are not broken all the damn time. Stop thinking that there is something to heal all the time. You do get to just live life and be awesome. What's wrong with that? Like, is that not a thing anymore? Like, can we just not live life and be awesome? You are not always broken, and there is not always something to heal. So you need to really be in a state of deep self-observation to know and understand what you are healing and when the healing is done, and then just go and be fucking awesome.
Are people scared to live an awesome life? Is that what
they are, Taryn?
That people are just, I'm so scared life is going to be so wonderful and I'm going to be happy. How will I handle that? I mean, is this what happens?
That's a bypassing thing of its own, right? Like instead of stepping into actualizing the greatness that you're here to actualize and receiving the life that, you know, you're worthy and deserving of, instead we keep coming back to what's wrong. What do I need? You know, what do I need to fix? What's broken? What's wrong with me? And it's just like, you know, if you keep searching for that, if you keep diving deeply into your boyfriend's shit to see if he's cheating on you, you keep looking for something, eventually you're going to find something because you're fucking actualizing it. Like, so it's the same thing. Like, you can decide that you are going to live the life that you deeply desire and then go live that life. And does it mean that you stop doing processes or that you stop, you know, going after growth or expansion? No, and that's the thing. I mean, I think that's really, for me, like the blessing that has been Ouroboros, and for me, the blessing that has been ERC and continuing to deconstruct emotional programming and conditioning is like, I just am now at a place in my life where I'm like, I'm not really triggered by shit. And I'm not really like, money isn't really something that like I have an energetic charge around anymore. I don't, you know, like last week I was at the hotel and they put my bag in the back of the go-kart and they drove off and my laptop flew off and like skid across the pavement. And, you know, even the me 2 years ago would have been like, oh, like, you know, that's an investment. That's money that I have to like go put out on my computer. And I was just like, oh, that sucks. And I value the investment that I made into that computer. So I went to the hotel and they were like, oh, we're just in a bad spot right now because of COVID. Like, can we offer you nights at the hotel in exchange for the computer? And I was like, absolutely. You know, so I like gratefully took the nights at the hotel, came home, immediately ordered the new computer, which here in Bali is like 30% more than it would be normally. And like sat there, like sending the transfer going, wow, like I don't actually have any energetic charge around this anymore. Because I'm worthy of and deserving of living this life. I'm worthy and deserving of having a computer that operates appropriately. I'm worthy and deserving of, you know, getting to go have an amazing dinner with my friends. I'm worthy and deserving of, you know, staying in 5-star hotels if that's what I choose, and living in a beautiful villa on the beach, and all the things that I desire. And I know that when I'm properly resourced, I can do amazing things in the world. And I'm not afraid to live that life. I'm not afraid to unapologetically live the life that I'm deserving of living. And, you know, I think that is the thing that keeps people stuck in those perpetual processes, is that they are afraid. They're afraid to just be unapologetic and say, no, like I'm worthy and deserving of this and I'm going to live this life. Because going back to the panel from last time, it's like, then that comes with the comparison and the judgment and all that, right? And it's a whole other level of programming that we have to deal with. But I think it's a powerful statement to kind of end this panel on, that what are you worthy and deserving of? Like, do you want to live an amazing life? You're not broken. You have all the tools inside you. You are the most powerful creator in your reality. You have the ability to manifest anything and everything you desire and bring it into fruition in the reality that you're living in this moment. It's a decision, and it's continual action, and it's showing up, and it's calling yourself on your own bullshit and not getting stuck in your processes and all these things that we've been talking about tonight. That's how you get to that place. It's how you stay in that place.
Lots of head nodding there. Yep. I feel like we're bringing it home on a pretty solid note. I mean, there was 2 more questions, which will just, well, one a statement, one Leah can answer. It was just a Michelle, thank you for the message about the universe bends at my will. I think that was also referred to as The Universe is My Bitch book, coming out soon alongside the Surrender Timeline. Stay tuned. And very important note to end on, which incense/scent should we be wearing if patchouli is off limits?
Any but patchouli.
Oh, that bit got me good. Well, I think we're just going to wrap it up. So I have had such a ball. I'm not going to lie. Like, this is like how much I love this shit. Like, I've got a friend's birthday out there on the island. They're all away sipping drinks. But I was like, I want to be in here having this conversation with you guys because it's important. And I'm sure each and every one of you has like taken something like that can fundamentally like completely shift your reality. Like, so much wisdom has been shared in this last 2 hours. So I would love everyone to unmute, maybe say their final word, and then I'll get back to my margaritas.
Last word. I had no idea what I was talking about coming in here, but it has been awesome to chat about it. And yeah, and who knew how much everyone hates patchouli? I didn't even know people hated it.
Anyone else?
Yeah, it was just really awesome and inspiring. I feel really inspired by you all just being here. So I really hope that other people have shared in that energy. It's and these are important subjects, and they're subjects that we get to speak about, you know, and they have to be spoken about. And just just expand into our possibility, knowing that you are possible, you know, and stop keeping things so constricted and small. You know, these things are important. They're an important part of expansion. So thank you, ladies, for existing. You're awesome. I feel better for being on the planet with you.
Yeah. Laura, you thought you're unmuting?
Am I? Yeah. Thank you all so much. I'm actually really super excited, and it's like way past my bedtime. So there was a couple of questions in there, and I was just like, you know what? My last parting words are just feel the fear, and just do it anyway. It seems so cliche, but just fucking just do it. What have you got to lose?
Solid parting words.
The only thing you've got to lose is the fear.
Tracy, any final words?
Yeah, I still one of the questions come up is, you know, how can you surround yourself with people like on this amazing panel, right? And, you know, you create it and you find these people by showing up. That's how I found all of you, right? By going to that breakfast, Taryn, you know, that morning in Perth, Leah, by reaching out to you on little video chats, and Sarah, you know, saying yes on my birthday last year to the Inspiring Women. You just say fucking yes, right? And then it's a ripple effect. That's how you create this environment. And then once you create it, it just amplifies and amplifies and amplifies. But you need to just, as Taryn said, and Laura said, get past the fear, show up, put yourself out there, and that's where the miracles happen.
Amazing. And I will just say in closing, thank you so much to all of you for being here. And I know that you're all so extremely busy. So I really appreciate your time and your investment into being here and sharing this message. We have another incredible panel happening on 25th. I don't know what day that is. Wednesday, the 25th. And in that panel, we are going to be talking about the polarity agenda, how gender roles and programming in relation to gender roles are keeping you broke. So we're going to be talking a lot about the masculine feminine balance. So I'm really excited for that conversation. So we will drop, because I know many of you are watching on Facebook on my personal page, we will drop a link to register for the panel series. We do have a private Facebook group that is the home of the replays and recordings of these panel series. And you can definitely hop on there, join us. You can receive all of the information on where to contact all of these amazing women there in the Facebook group. We are putting together an epic batch of bonuses for people that register for these incredible panel series that will be going out to anyone that kind of clicks that link. Yeah, go in, register, give us your information. We'll be sending you some bonuses. But definitely like come into that Facebook group and into that community. We really want this to be about collective growth and inspiration. And this will be an ongoing thing. So we're going to be bringing, 1 to 2 panels a month, kind of depending. I think the way it's shaping up, it looks like it's going to be 2 panels a month, where we're just going to have these conversations, and we're going to open up these dialogues and give you an opportunity to connect in with women perhaps that you haven't met before, and here's some ideas that perhaps you haven't heard before, and also really invite you to take these conversations that we've been having in these panels back and into your communities. So have these conversations with your friends. Don't just come listen to us talk about them, but take these ideas and these conversations back into your communities, because that's how we create the ripple, and that's how we create change on the planet. So that's it. Thank you so much. We're ending right on the dot, 10 o'clock. Mwah. Love you guys.
Boom. Bye, everyone. Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.